I'm Brian Johnson. We usually hang out about e-commerce, but today we're hanging out about AI because we have the upcoming AI Summit coming up May 24th and 25th. It's virtual, online, and we're going to have 16 plus experts coming out to share their best AI tips to help you with every step in your business, whether you have a business right now or whether you're wanting to start a business. Every step from concept to launch, we have covered. Plus, we're going to be talking about some really exciting topics like what does the future of AI look like? And, some really awesome revelations that have been happening. Of course, AI is moving at the speed of light right now. So we're just trying to keep up, and it's going to be a lot of fun hanging out for 2 days, May 24th and 25th. And of course, the virtual summit will allow you to see the replays afterwards. So if you'd like to sign up, you can visit us over at amazingathome.com/AI. And Brian also has a really cool coupon code that you can use to save $50 off. So if you use coupon code BrianAI, BRIANAI, you can save $50. But let's talk about AI. Brian, how did you get into AI? Tell everybody a little bit about you.
Well, I mean, I've been in e-commerce for about, God, I don't even know how many decades now. No, 15 years. But during that time, one of the projects that I had in the Amazon space, of course, was developing PPC scope back in the early days before any of the software existed. And one of the things we looked at in one of the later years that product has since been retired. But one of the last things that we were working on was building an AI in order to analyze all the AI data. This is way before like all the machine learning tools that are out there now. It was a little bit early at that point. So I got reinvigorated again, of course, 99% of the world when ChatGPT rolled out. And I lost a lot of sleep in the first week because I found that I was going through, the whole cycle of emotions, like denial and all these kind of things, right? It's like, okay, what does this mean, for me? And ultimately, I finally started to embrace it and said, okay, this could be really, really powerful. I started playing around with it. I don't claim to be an expert. In fact, I don't think anybody should claim to be an expert in chat GPT prompts because it's only been out for less than 6 months. But
By the
um,
time you consider yourself an expert in one prompt, it changes the next day.
yeah,
Or you get like
exactly.
a totally
Like
different response than you've gotten, or GPT upgrades and you're like, whoa,
yeah,
4.0, what's going on with this, right?
give it a couple of years. Yeah. But one of the things that I certainly continue to gravitate towards is there's so many things that I can do with AI with Chat GPT specifically with Mid Journey and some of these other kind of tools. And there's a lot of things I am working on, of course, related to Amazon, not related to Amazon. So it's kind of a mix of both. But one of the things that I continually have challenged myself to do that pulled me back in pretty much on a daily basis is I come up and say, okay, that was cool, but what if I did this? And I go down a rabbit hole, and I realize that I can come up with 100 different business ideas related to machine learning, AI, and some of the tools that are available, all the new ones that are coming out. But ultimately, I knew I was thinking too small. I knew I had to think bigger and bigger because ultimately we're getting down to the point now where it's not like it used to be where, hey, I can create a business model and it'll take 6 months for competition to catch me. No, if it took you 3 days to figure this out using ChatGPT, then it's going to take your competition 3 days to figure it out too. So, unfortunately, it creates a lot of speed, but you kind of have to keep challenging. At least I have to keep challenging myself to push beyond and try to learn. It's like, okay, there's got to be a different way of doing something. So that's what
Yeah, I
broke
think
me,
that's
and
what's
I had
so
to have let go. So
I think this is what's so exciting about us having this summit is just spending a couple days seeing what people are doing and how they're growing and going into different topics and just looking at that. I also feel that way. I've come up with a few new business ideas, and you do kind of go through. You were talking about the cycle earlier of like, denial and all these things. Like you go through those same things, but so much faster when you're coming up when you're using AI to help you with a new business idea or help you with new product development or whatever, because you're like, oh my gosh, what's my competition doing? So it's so exciting to have all of these different people who are into this and who are exploring different AI fields. Some of our speakers have created software that is already fully utilizing this and now they're upgrading it, right? We've got the CTO of Carbon 6 coming in to talk about like how is big tech using, AI with their teams and stuff like that. And it's like, it's very exciting. We want to talk about what's new with AI, but it's been around for a while and it's evolved over time. And so it's really neat to come in this environment where we can all learn from each other and discover how different people are using it. And I know you and I are both going to come away with some of the business ideas that we're working on. We're going to both come away even greater prepared to really hone that in. And
Right.
I'm hoping that our
I
attendees
don't,
are going to get that out of it as well. But what else are you excited about the summit for, Brian?
yeah, I mean, I don't know if prepared is the right word. I think it's just a case of like just trying to keep up at this point.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's the fact is that because so many people are focused on this topic right now. I mean, it's not like AI is new, right? It's just more accessible now
Yeah.
to the general population. And so what I see on this, especially if I'm in the audience, what I'm looking for is what are some of the patterns, what are some of the combinations that different speakers they're talking about their each of their topics or their suggestions or their ideas or their experience, and I would combine them together and say, okay, how can I take this and match it with this and then this other thing over here and then come up with some new thing myself. It really accelerates your ability to run with ideas. And the honestly, I think most people what they should be trying to do is listen for like, okay, what are the shortcuts? Because so many tasks that traditionally would take you, minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, whatever, you can simply just say like, hey, suggest a path in order for me to complete this project. And it'll outline, you're like, no, that's not quite what I'm thinking about. Adjust, for this. It's this kind of a project with this kind of detail. And it'll come up with a pretty decent flow that you can simply just say like, okay, now at least I have in front of me step one, step two, step three, step four, and I can just kind of go through it. Or I can ask again and say, okay, what can AI do for me to solve each one of these things? And I think that's probably the opportunity for everybody. I know that's an opportunity I have to continually press myself for, is to just, like to use it more than simply just
Mhm.
saying like, oh, I'll get to that task. If I'm ever saying, if anybody who's, watching this conference is the summit is saying like, oh, I'll eventually get to that. That's a perfect opportunity to say like, wait a minute, how can I just automate this? How can I just get this off my plate, accelerate it? I think that's the opportunity for most people.
I love that. Well, speaking of, you gave a great tip there of, asking AI, like, how can I make this easier? How can I automate this? How can I get through this project? So speaking of tips, do you have a tip you want to give everybody that you found helpful tool or a tip that they can use today?
Well, yeah, I mean, so one of the things that I actually just learned about this week is called the Descript. And Descript is one of these AI tools that allows you to essentially listens to your voice pattern and then mimics it and then can actually recreate it quite well. Now, you would think, given how much content that you and I put out, or traditionally have put out, that we would just use this in order to create personas of ourselves and then just be out there producing content on its own. While that is tempting, I actually went the opposite direction, and reduced the amount of content that I'm coming out, just because I know a lot of people would be trying to do that. But I gotta say, there is some interesting things as far as being able to mimic somebody's voice. Here's actually how I'm going to use this one. This one is not business related. I've got elderly parents in their 80s, and I want to set up something essentially called a spoof or something like that. Not to play games, but as a serious lesson. And that is to have a phone call that goes out to from some other number that goes out to my mother and says like, hey, I've got this person here. They need you. I need you to wire funds, that kind of stuff. In other words, fraud, right? In order to help them recognize, oh, I totally thought that was Brian asking me to send me money, and I fell for it. So that it impresses upon them the danger of making sure that there's some kind of like, we got a safe word, or there's some kind of like secondary checks and balances, so that they don't get essentially robbed by somebody who's using AI in a bad way. Obviously, I want to use it in a positive way. I want to, help, people's lives and make money and all that. But at the same time, yeah, I've got some elderly parents that I need to take care of too, and I need to protect them. And fortunately, that's one of the things that I need to do in order to use something like a Descript, in order to use it not just for business, but also personal family protection.
Yeah, wow. And that's the thing about AI as well. All this new technology being so accessible is that it's can actually make for our scams that used to be so kind of
Obvious.
easier to detect because oh, misspellings and stuff like that. Well,
Yeah.
now it's really easy for them to write perfectly and to sound like a bank, to sound official. So I do
Yeah.
think it's smart for us to look out for people in our families, stuff like that, even our kids, and let them know, like, hey, you could get a call from somebody that sounds like your mom, that's not your mom. And, this is the capability today. And I think all of us, we need to be thinking about this because there's only so many people in the cybersecurity field that are going to be able to attack that problem of it as well. So, definitely everyone check out Descript and thank you, Brian, for that tip. Obviously we can use it for many different things.
For good
Creating
or
great
evil.
content, mimicking our voice. It can be used for evil, but we can also use it for protection. So what a great tip today. And you'll have to let us know how that works out with your parents.
I certainly will. Yeah. I'll tell you at the summit how
Well,
it went.
yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much, Brian, for joining us today. And thanks everybody for listening in on today's AI Speaker Spotlight. And we're excited to see Brian at the AI Summit. And you can save $50 on your ticket. Go to amazingathome.com/AI. And you can also check out the schedule of all the different speakers that we have. And you can check out all these live streams of everyone giving their tips and see where they're coming from, what they're going to be talking about at the summit. And like I said, save $50 on your ticket using code Brian AI.
That's right.
So hope to see you guys there. And thanks again, Brian, for joining us today. We'll see you at the summit.
See you there.